Hey, welcome to my channel. So what do I got going on today? So it's truing a bounce. So there's various techniques to true a bounce, but this one I've found to be the best. Usually a bounce might be not true to flat or true to round. So if a bounce isn't true to round, it's a bit trickier, but you end up manipulating the bounce with your fingers. So as you can see in the lower left-hand corner, I have the bounce in a bounce truing caliper. You grab the box for this here. There it is there. So this is a Watchcraft caliper. I've got another one, I think, and it's got a basically it looks like this, and there's a groove in it for sticking on the edge of the bounce to move it. But I like using my fingers to true a bounce. It's pretty easy. It's if it's not flat, then you end up bending the arms of the bounce up or down depending on which one is down and which one is up. So you kind of play with it until it's true again, right? So, and true to flat. And so as you can see, this bounce that I've got in here now was a 21 jewel watch, railroad grade watch, and I made the bounce staff for this, and I made the videos on how to make the bounce staff for this. So this was it. And then when I finished the bounce staff, I realized that the darn thing is not true. So let me just flip over here for a second. Alrighty then, so truing a bounce, this is from the Bullivis School of Watchmaking. We'll call it the Bible. And unit 2, truing a bounce wheel, or bounce wheels. And there's a bit of an introduction here, and it shows the bounce in a caliper. So as I'll show you in a few minutes, these are the tools you're going to need. I don't have this wrench in this particular caliper set I brought out, but I do have it in another caliper set. So you have the wrench there, you've got the bounce truing caliper, the eye loop, the tweezers, blah blah blah, right? So yada yada yada. So as it says, as you can see here, it's saying you got to make sure that that bounce, that pivot, when you're laying it in, right? Make sure that pivot is in there nicely, right? Pivot is nicely in the hole. I've mentioned that a little later on and how to do that. And this is basically a hole here to allow you to clean out the stump, so there's no garbage in there when you put that in. So it's saying you got to hinge your caliper, but you get the caliper set up. I'm going to show you how to do that. Get your index out of the way when you're doing it. I usually swing that around the other way. I don't like the way this picture is showing. It's usually the other way. So you got to get that kind of out of the way when you put your balance in. I'm going to show you how to do that. There's some black and white kind of pictures on how to hold this. What I recommend though is buying yourself a third hand. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you what that is and how I use the third hand. And then you've got the balance, and you're trying to make it true to flat. And there's the balance there, and there's usually a split in the balance of the pocket watch. So I don't think you'll be truing balances on non-pocket watches. So this is a split in the pocket watch, allows you to and it's this side, this circle or a semicircle is attached to this arm. This semicircle is attached to this arm, and you'll see how you can actually use your thumb and your finger to enable you to twist it both ways. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit of detail later. Then you move the this indexer, what do they call that thing? Let me just move over here for a second again, get the names proper. Indexer, so let's just call it the indexer for now. You move that indexer close to the balance. So you start off with the indexer pretty far away. You put the balance in. This dude does it the same way I do it. I usually have the balance with a hairspring on the top, even though in the example I'm going to show you later, the hairspring is actually on the bottom, so I have it flipped the other way with the roller table part on the top. So, and I don't actually have the roller table and the hairspring on the balance because I'm still working on that particular balance. And you take the indexer and you put it close. You don't put it really close to start off with. You put it, probably just close enough to the highest point as you're turning it. And you turn it with your finger. So there you go. You can Google how to do this, but I'm going to show you anyway. So you swing it around, and then as you can see, the way this guy's doing this is that you're twisting the balance with your fingers, using your finger and your thumb, and try not to put a lot of pressure on the pivot that way. I have a third hand, so I also use my other hand to hold this balance in place to put even less pressure on that, so when I twist it. And as you can see in this diagram here, he's starting off low and then progressively moving the indexer closer and closer until it's decreasing, space decreasing, until you get it absolutely right. So that's all you do. You start off far away and then move it in closer. I explained that a little later on in the video. But he's got some pretty good fingerprints happening here. That's amazing, man. These are pretty good illustrations. Anyway, they're showing you again how to do this, and I give you a little bit of an example there. Here they're using a tool that I didn't show you in the thing, but they're grabbing it with the tool and then twisting it up or twisting it down or pulling it up and pulling it down. And this tool is used to shoot around. So I wouldn't shoot around with the balance wheel in the caliper. I'd take it out of the caliper and just hold it in my fingers and then shoot around that way. So that's what that tool is used for. You can also twist with the tool, but really it's used to shoot around. Your fingers are needed to do the truing on the balance. So don't use that tool for that. And what else do we have? They're just showing you here in the book of, if you've got a bend here, down here, then you can progressively work your way up from that bend, right? So here he's starting, let me see if I can figure that out, starting there, bending the bend up that way, then he's got to fart with it that way and then move it back this way. So you'll learn how to do it. I recommend taking some old balances and working with them until you get them right. I read in a blog that someone was saying he never puts the balance in the calipers and then uses his thumbs to true it, because he said you're likely going to break the pivots. Well, I explained how not to do that, because the pivot, 2/3 of the pivot will go into that hole, not the end part, not the flat part of the pivot. The conic part will fit in that hole, which can easily take that pressure. And then you can use your fingers to move that balance into the right place. I usually use 2 fingers to do it, not 1, and you're going to see me, I do a sample balance. I just took one of my old balances and true it that way. And that's it. So if you look up the Bulova School of Watchmaking, Unit, let me see, Unit 2, does it say Unit 2? I got a good enough memory here, yeah. So training unit number 2, that'll show you how to true a balance wheel. If you've got this kind of balance wheel, not a chance. You're not going to be able to chew that unless you use a hammer. So I don't recommend using a hammer, by the way. But anyway, that's what the book says, and let's get at it and to it. All right, there we go. So that's the balance in the caliper. I'm going to take another one in a second and put it into the caliper, but I'll show you this one here. So this one here, as I adjusted this arm here and I put this this part of the arm right over the balance and very close to it, I was able to determine whether which part of the balance was low and which part of the balance was high by spinning it. Now the pivots are going into the holes here, and you have to make sure that they're in there nicely, because if you press on one side of the balance, basically push down on one side, and the pivots aren't in there nicely, sort of how the pivots are straight and then they're conic, they go up like this, so you have to get that pivot on the end of the balance right into that hole, so that probably about 2/3 of that pivot is inside that hole and 1/3 is outside, so you're on the conic part of the pivot and you're not stressing the pivot itself, because you'll just snap the pivot off or bend it. So you've got to make sure that's in nicely. And and also try to remember for this the wheel that's here, which way is tightening and which way is loosening. And you can see on the upper right hand corner the picture there. If I pull this way, it's loosening it. If I push this way, it's tightening it. Remember that first as you start doing this, because you'll end up placing the balance in there and perhaps destroy the balance as you're doing it. So in this case here, I was able to get this balance pretty darn close to flat. So if I just spin this around, you'll see how close. So I loosen this up just a bit, like that. So it's got some, I'm able to turn it right. And you can see right where that groove is, how close I am all the way around. That's almost touching this part of it right here. See? It's right there. So that gap is pretty much the same. And you just adjust this knob here. You loosen it up and you bring it in. You swing this in. You loosen that up and you swing this in towards it until you're comfortably close to it. Leave a bigger gap to start with, and as your balance gets flatter and flatter, just move the balance this inward so that you can true it as it's getting flatter and flatter. So that's as it gets flatter and flatter, you loosen this and then move it inward, and until you get it really, really close. So this one here, I believe, is done. And you play with it with your fingers. I'm going to show you in a second. I've got a balance here that looks like it's screwed up. So I'll take this out right now. So I'm going to take this balance out very carefully and just loosen this up. This is the claw, so I'll start up high like this. Not that high, but around here, right? And then as I get closer to getting perfection from being true to flat, I'll do this, right? So you don't really need to put it in a caliper for true to round. You just need to hold it in your hands and mold it into round. I've had very few balances not being true to round. I've had very few problems with the balance being true to round, not being true to round. So I just move this out of the way and then tighten it. And as I said, you got to remember, I'm spinning away from me here to get that balance. So support the balance as you're turning this, and then just open that up like that, and very carefully remove the balance from the caliper. There we go. And I tend to like putting little pieces of Rodico on the end of the balance. So I've got the balance here, and I'll take a little nubby of Rodico and I'll just stick that in there. And there we go. That Rodico's on one side. Now I can put the balance down and not worry about it getting damaged. I do put a knobby of Rodico on the other side, but I'll do that a little later because I'm not really in close enough with the work right now, and I'm afraid of just making the wrong move. So here I've got the other balance, and let me see if I can set that up and show you how that's set up. Right now the camera's kind of in the way, but I'm going to try to do that by flipping my glasses and then and putting my putting this caliper in, or putting the balance in the caliper. This one here is an older balance I have, and the pivot's broken on one side, so it might not spin perfectly. So you put it in like this. You get one side in, preferably the top of this. Goes in the hole, and then once it goes in the hole, just lower the whole thing, and then watch the bottom part so that it gets into the hole as well. So I'm not really up close on this right now, so I'm a little bit concerned. But let me just have a boo at this, a peekaroo, as they say in the world of watch repair. I'm gonna have to get my head around there somehow. Hang on a second. Figure out how to do this. My lens is actually too close right now. I got to get a lens that's a flip over lens on my glasses that's a little bit further away to do this. Let me see if I can do this. If I move the camera around at the side angle, then maybe it'll be better there. Just hang on. Alrighty then, there we go. So the balance is now in there, and as you can see, even seeing it at this angle here, as I spin this around, I need to cut my thumbnail there, don't I? Use that for opening watch cases. So I spin that around, you see that it's pretty close to that little arm here, this arm right there. As I move it further, it's getting further away from the arm because it looks like there's a twist in this balance. So I'm also looking at the balance so that I can see that it's perfectly flat as well. It'll show if it's not flat to the pivot. If it's sort of at an angle to the pivot, you can see in my camera on the upper right hand side. So if it's like perfectly flat like this, then when it spins around, the gap will be the same all the way around. If it's off at an angle like that, it's going to go higher and lower. So what I do then is just lower this a little bit and have a look at where it sits, right? And you can see that it's higher right here, and just lower that a bit more, and you can see I'm getting pretty close to where it's almost touching, right? So right there's a problem, and as I spin it around, it's lower there, and so it's obviously twisted, and I need to twist that back into shape. So I think I can do that. I could flip this balance around. I usually do this with the balance flipped the other way, by the way, so this is kind of upside down for me, but I could probably do it this way anyway. So I can see that it's it's higher right there, and then it gets lower right there, right? So you get in there. I'm going to get in there with my fingers and everything. So try to determine which side needs to go up. So I think it's bent. I believe this side is right here is up too high, and I need to bend that down. So I could just grab that with my fingers and sort of brace it as I'm grabbing it and just bounce it. I usually do this. I just go like this and then have a look and then twist that again. That's getting really close. And you notice that there's a gap right there between the two. It's basically one arm with the balance and then the other arm with the other half of the balance. So this needs to go up or down. Let me look at that again and see which way I need to pull that. I think I need to push that down again. So let me just grab that and then just use it as a lever. So one thumb's on the bottom, the thumb's on top, and just bounce it down and look at it as I'm bouncing it, right? Like that. And now just turn it like this, and I think that has corrected the problem. So now I will lower this even more to get it even closer. And I might bring the camera in even closer than that, just so you guys can see. Just hang on. Alright, so how's that for a nice close-up? So there's the balance, and there's the, I'm not sure what this thing is called, but it's the arm that you position that arm just above the balance, and then you rotate the balance and see how close it is. So I've got that in perfect position here, and as I rotate the balance with my finger nice and easily, loosen the balance up just a bit with that thumb screw that you're seeing me do that with. So just a little bit, not too much. And put that down there, just a bit. A tad, as they say. So, and there you see I'm loosening it, and okay, there we go. So that, as you can see, is pretty much the same all the way around. So that is pretty good. That's, I would say that's close enough, because that's pretty darn flat. And like I said before, I usually spin this the other way, but I turn the balance so that the hairspring part is facing upward, so it's a little bit easier. So that's how you do that. So it's there's books, as you've seen before. The Watch Repairs Manual shows you how to grab it with your thumbs, but basically you're either using your fingers, 2 fingers, and twisting it, or using 3 fingers and putting your thumb in the middle and twisting it. So you'll get used to it. I recommend getting a couple of old balances and just warp them up a little bit in many different ways, and then just start practicing on how to bring them back. And I did that 21 jewel one this afternoon here, and it turned out absolutely perfect. It didn't take me long either. It took me maybe 5 minutes to get it in position. I was more afraid of damaging the pivots, because it was fitting in the movement so nicely. I still have to stake in the roller table now and finish that job and put on the hairspring. But right now the balance was my biggest concern. So as I said before, try to say it properly here. Move these screwdrivers out of the way here. This is the caliper here. It's a Watchcraft caliper manufactured by something Marshall Company Limited. So Marshall, it's a Marshall Watchcraft. So if you look this up, it's probably all different kind of companies that own Marshall. So I should take this and actually clean this up so it's like new. It wouldn't take me much. Make sure you oil it right here. And as I said before, pushing this way is tightening, pushing this way is loosening. I want to apologize for my thumbnail there. It's a bit long, but I do use it to get underneath the pocket watch edges. But I cut it for work. So you want to make sure pushing it forward is tightening and pulling it away is loosening. And remember, just try it out and remember. And then, like I said before, you start out with this arm. You loosen that up. You start out pretty high like that, and then you turn the balance, and you can just touch it with your finger lightly. I loosen it just a bit, so it's there we go. So I've got it's not too tight, doesn't scrape around. If you want, you can put a bit of oil in there too, and that way there's a little less friction on the pivots. And just turn it like this, very easily, slowly, like that, and then see what position it's in. And as you get closer and closer to the balance, and you start bending it more, you'll see that how true to flat you are. This is pretty accurate right now, as you can see as I'm spinning that around. That's pretty good. And I just did, I think, 2 bends. My technique is that I won't just bend it. I'll bounce it up. So I'll bounce it a little bit, test it, bounce it a little bit, test it. If you just grab it and try to bend it into the position, you end up having to overbend it because it'll spring back down. So I just recommend bouncing it just a bit as you bend it, and then you can, and it'll eventually bend into place. So you just get better at it as you do it more and more. So that's it. And when you finish, as I said before, when you finish with the bounce, get this out of the way like this. Just move it off to the side and tighten it like that. And then grab the bounce. And like I said before, what I try to do is I get the upper pivot in first because I'm usually looking this way. I get that upper pivot, and as I close the bounce by turning the wheel this way or turning my thumb towards the bounce, I look where the lower pivot is. I get very close. I look where the lower pivot is, and I make sure that lower pivot is going to ride right into that hole. If you do this and it doesn't ride into the hole and you keep tightening it, you'll snap that lower pivot. There's no doubt you're going to break that lower pivot, and that'll piss you off. Okay, that's the only words I can think of. So you don't want to get pissed off by doing that. So get the upper pivot in there nicely. It's pretty easy. You hold the balance like you're holding nitroglycerin, right? So from the old cowboy movies. So do it that way. It's very hard to describe how to get it true to round, but you're doing the same thing. You're just taking the balance here and you're bending it. There is a tool that they had, like I said. I'm not sure where it is, so I'm not going to bother getting it, but it's like a wrench. It goes like this, and there's a slot in it, and this fits into the slot, and you can bend it with that tool. I find using my fingers is much more control using my fingers. And when you take the balance out, just sort of hold it in midair kind of thing. So you're just holding it lightly like that, and then just don't move a bit. Just turn the screw and let it come out on its own, right? So there we go. With this balance here, the upper pivot was bent. I had to straighten it with a pair of tweezers in order to use this. In order to use this balance, for an example, I had to straighten the upper pivot with a pair of tweezers. Sometimes my camera does a jitter, so I just repeat what I'm saying, which kind of works. So I think I restart my computer fresh and it'll work fine. So that's it. So that's the video. This is the balance caliper. This is the balance. So I decided to do just a quick video on this today. So that's the video on how to use the balance calipers. I've got a set. I got 2 of them, and I've never had a problem with them. And every time I've tried to flatten the balance out, it's worked. When I first started doing it back in the day, I trained on some old balances just to see if I could do it. And instead of taking a nice watch balance and try to do it and wreck it, right? So as you can see, I've got a bin of like a whole bunch of parts here that. These are just scrap parts that I have nicely organized, and sometimes I go wheel hunting and stuff, but as a watchmaker you tend to have way more parts than you'll ever need, and I've got tons and tons of parts. So that's the balance, so that's the Watchcraft balance caliper. What is it called here? What are they saying? Caliper for pocket watches and bracelet watches, manufactured by CE Marshall Company. You can find these anywhere on eBay. These are very easy to find. It seems like there's a million of them out there, and you can probably pick one up for $20. They're not that expensive. I don't think a lot of people use them because there's not a lot of balances that are not true to flat. Usually it's somebody steps on them or does some crazy stuff with the balance. It ends up screwing it up, and you gotta work on it and make it true to flat. So anyway, that's it. This little device thing I have here, I think I bought it from AliExpress, from direct from China for like $10 or something, but it's like a third hand. And I just loosen that up like that, and I can swing this over like so. And this is the balance. This is a caliper. Tighten, loosen. So like I said, remember which is which. You move your thumb towards the part. Just think of it that way. Thumb's towards the part, it's tightening it. Thumb's away from the part, it's loosening it. Because you'll be in there and you'll think you're loosening it and you're tightening it, and you'll screw something up and end up screwing the pivot. Be very, very careful with the pivots. That's all I can say, because this thing here it's a pivot eater if you don't put it in correctly. It's a pivot eater. It eats pivots. And as I was saying before, if I grab that balance I did earlier, I tend to put a little plug. Just put that in front of the camera. I put a little plug of Rodico on the end of the pivot, and so when I put the balance down somewhere, the pivot's not scraping away on something, right? So it's keeping it nice and secure, new or whatever. So it's a lot better on the. It's a lot safer anyway. So So I said so again. I say so a lot. So this little third hand is great, though. I'd get yourself one. The books will show you the guy holding this with his hand, with one hand, and then moving the balance with his other hand. Well, that's kind of stupid, right? So you can buy these really cheap. So just buy one of these, put the caliper in there, and then you have two hands free to actually manipulate the balance, which is the way you want to do it. I also use this when I'm putting an impulse jewel. I'm putting an impulse jewel in a watch. I use this little baby to hold the what is it? The dinosaur head, I call it, the velociraptor that holds the roller table. So it just kind of goes like that and goes like that. So that's the velociraptor. I always use that to hold the velociraptor when I'm doing it. Then I've got the heat source, the candle underneath there, and it's also an alcohol lamp. It's not a candle. Don't use a candle. So I've got the alcohol lamp under there, and I'm actually I've got this in here. That way I have control when I'm farting around with the jewel with my tweezers, right? So I've got the third hand in there. So if you can't find a really good friend that'll hold this for like an hour without moving, just buy one of these. And it's this thing has a soft jaw on it. I'll see what the make is. That way you can maybe look it up. So I just grip the bottom. Don't grip both. That's stupid. If you grip both, then please don't watch my videos anymore. So just grip the bottom part and then it'll ride up and down. So this is a nice one. I should shine that up because I like shiny stuff. So, and that goes in the box. And this one has little knobbies in the bottom. I think I had to glue one of the knobbies back on. This one looks like it's getting a little bit loose. And this is heavy as heck. So it's not your average little lightweight thing. And the box on this says outside micrometer. I'm not sure why it's outside micrometer stand, it says, right? Outside micrometer stand. So if you look up outside micrometer stand, and I'll just show you the part number if I can get the camera at the right angle to do that. Let me see. Can you see that part number? EG 10-1430. EG 10-1430. So if you want to pick one of these up, maybe you just Google that and you find out where they are. I went to AliExpress. I got the app on my phone, and I was able to do that with AliExpress. So put that balance in view. So just throw that behind me for now. So there we go. That's it. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please subscribe to my channel. Where's my icon? It's up in the corner, I think, right there, right up there. So please, there it is, right there. So please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel and share it with others. And if you've got any requests for me to make a video on how to do stuff with watchmaking or lathes or pretty much anything to do with watchmaking, if you need to know how to play a G-flat minor, suspended seventh, an augmented, give me a call. And if you need to know how to do a simple card trick, let me see, grab my cards here for a second. Might as well end with something interesting. Need to do a full card flurry with your hands like that. I know how to do that stuff too. So stay tuned to my channel, and I'll keep making videos if you keep liking them. Thanks.